You're probably undercharging, not because your product isn't good, not because your service isn't valuable, but because deep down, you're afraid. Afraid that if you raise your prices, people will leave. Afraid that customers will disappear overnight. Afraid that charging more somehow makes you greedy. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The reason you're not making more money is not because customers won't pay more. It's because you don't understand how pricing actually works. And today, you're going to see pricing in a completely different way because pricing isn't math, it's psychology. And once you understand that, you'll realize something powerful. People don't buy based on price, they buy based on perception. And perception can be engineered. So if you stay with me, I'm going to show you how to charge more without losing customers, and in many cases, actually gaining more. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever seen two nearly identical products, one priced at $10 and the other at $50, and somehow the $50 one feels better? Same function, same purpose, but one feels premium. That's not logic, that's psychology. And that's where we begin. Because the biggest pricing mistake most people make is assuming customers are rational. They're not. People don't calculate value like spreadsheets. They feel it. And feelings are influenced by context, presentation, and expectation. This is why a bottle of water can cost $1 at a supermarket, $3 at an airport, and $10 at a luxury hotel, without anyone questioning it. Same product, different perception. So the question is not, how do I justify a higher price? The real question is, how do I increase perceived value? Because when perceived value goes up, price resistance goes down. Now here's where it gets interesting. Lowering your price can actually hurt your business. Sounds backwards, right? But think about it. When something is cheap, what do people assume? Low quality, low reliability, low status. Cheap doesn't feel like a smart decision. It feels like a risk, and people hate risk. So ironically, when you charge too little, you make it harder for people to trust you. Let that sink in. Raising your price can actually increase trust because price is a signal. It tells customers what to expect. If your pricing says budget, you attract price-sensitive customers. If your pricing says premium, you attract value-focused customers. And those are very different people. Price-sensitive customers ask, how cheap can I get this? Value-focused customers ask, how good is this? One group drains your energy, the other builds your business. So if you're stuck dealing with difficult customers, constant bargaining, endless complaints, there's a good chance your pricing is attracting the wrong audience. And that's not a marketing problem. That's a positioning problem. Now, here's something most people don't realize. Customers don't know what something should cost. They guess. And those guesses are heavily influenced by something called anchoring. Anchoring is when people rely on the first piece of information they see to make decisions. So if the first price someone sees is high, everything after feels cheaper. If the first price is low, everything after feels expensive. This is why restaurants put the most expensive item at the top of the menu, not because they expect everyone to buy it, but because it makes everything else feel more reasonable. And you can use this exact same strategy. Instead of offering just one price, offer multiple tiers, a basic option, a standard option, and a premium option. Here's the trick. Make the premium option intentionally expensive, not to sell it, but to make the middle option feel like the best deal. This is called the decoy effect, and it works incredibly well because people don't like making extreme decisions. They avoid the cheapest option because it feels risky, and they avoid the most expensive option because it feels excessive. So they settle in the middle, which means you control the outcome by controlling the choices. Now imagine this. Instead of selling one product for $20, You offer three options: $15, $25, and $60. Most people will pick $25. And just like that, your average sale increases. Same product, better structure, more profit. But here's where most people mess up. They raise prices without changing anything else. And that's a mistake, because higher prices demand stronger justification. Not logical justification, perceived justification. That means your presentation must evolve, your branding must improve, your messaging must be clearer, your experience must feel better. Because people don't just buy products, they buy stories, they buy identity, they buy outcomes. So instead of saying, "This costs $100," you say, "This helps you save 10 hours every week." Now the conversation shifts from price to value. And that's where you want to be, because price is only a problem when value is unclear. Let me say that again. Price is only a problem when value is unclear. If someone truly believes your product will improve their life, they will find a way to afford it. People spend money on what matters to them, always. So your job is not to lower the price. Your job is to increase the importance, make the problem feel bigger, make the solution feel essential, make the outcome feel urgent, and suddenly, price becomes secondary. Now here's another powerful concept. People don't buy products, they buy transformations. Nobody buys a gym membership, they buy confidence. Nobody buys a course, they buy a better future. Nobody buys a phone, they buy status, connection, and convenience. So if you're selling features, you're competing on price. If you're selling transformation, you're competing on value. And value wins every time. This is why storytelling is so powerful, because stories create emotion, and emotion drives decisions. Instead of listing what your product does, show what it changes. Show before and after. Show real outcomes. Show real people. Because when customers can see themselves in the story, they stop thinking like buyers and start thinking like believers. And believers don't argue about price. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable: discounting. It feels good in the short term. More sales, more attention, more urgency. But over time, it destroys your brand because you train customers to wait. Why buy now if it'll be cheaper later and is established? It's very hard to break. So instead of discounting, add value, bundle products, offer bonuses, enhance the experience, make the deal feel bigger without lowering the price. Because when you lower the price, you shrink your perceived worth. But when you add value, you expand it. And expansion is what we want. Now here's a strategy that can instantly justify higher pricing: scarcity. When something is limited, it becomes more desirable because people fear missing out. If your product is always available with no urgency, no limitation, no exclusivity, then there's no pressure to act and no reason to pay more. But when you introduce constraints, limited spots, limited time, limited supply, something changes. The product feels special, important, worth acting on now, and urgency increases willingness to pay. But here's the key: scarcity must be real. Fake scarcity destroys trust, and once trust is gone, no pricing strategy can save you. Now let's talk about confidence, because this might be the most important part of all. If you don't believe your product is worth the price, no one else will either. Customers can feel hesitation, they can sense uncertainty, and uncertainty creates doubt. So when you raise your price, you must also raise your conviction. Stand behind your value, communicate clearly, eliminate hesitation, because confidence is contagious. And when customers feel your certainty, they borrow it. Now here's something most people overlook: the buying experience. Pricing is not just about the number, It's about how that number is delivered. If your website feels cheap, your price will feel expensive. If your communication is unclear, your price will feel unjustified. If your process is confusing, your price will feel risky. But when everything feels smooth, professional, intentional, then your price feels appropriate, even expected, because people don't just evaluate what they're buying. They evaluate how it feels to buy it. And that feeling influences everything. Now let's bring this all together. Charging more without losing customers is not about tricks. It's about alignment. Aligning your price with your perceived value. Aligning your messaging with your audience. Aligning your offer with real outcomes. When those things match, raising your price doesn't push customers away. It filters the right ones in. And that's the goal. Not more customers. Better customers. Customers who respect your work. Customers who trust your value. Customers who are happy to pay more because they believe it's worth it. Now imagine this. Instead of chasing more sales, you focus on better positioning. Instead of lowering prices, you elevate perception. Instead of competing, you differentiate. What happens? You work less, earn more, and build something sustainable. That's the power of pricing psychology. Now, before you go, here's something I want you to do. Take a look at your current pricing. Ask yourself, does this reflect the value I truly provide? Or is it based on fear? Because if it's fear, then it's costing you more than you realize. And if you found this helpful, make sure you stick around, because understanding how people think is the ultimate advantage in business. And once you master that, you don't just sell more, you sell smarter, and that changes everything.